Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started. Welcome back. We are going to dive into a very fun topic today, which is how to terminate employees. We were laughing right before we started recording that we have many examples
from my office,
from your practice that we could talk about. So this question comes up a lot with my clients when they're starting to have issues with an employee, and in their mind they're thinking this very well could end up at a termination type event. And so lots of questions around what does that mean from an unemployment standpoint? How do you fire somebody? And so today I'm going to be talking specifically about Texas. There are different laws for different states on, what it takes to fire somebody. But we live in the lovely state of Texas, which means that we've been able to, especially in your practice, fire people for whatever reason that we have. It's a right to hire, right to fire state. And so we really don't have anything binding that keeps us from terminating somebody. But I wanted to walk through, because I feel like even though between the two of us, you and I have terminated a lot of people in your practice, it hasn't been a haphazard thing. In, I would say, 99% of the situations, we've had a very long, scheduled approach. We kind of knew it was leading towards termination, but we followed a lot of documented meetings and things like that. So can you think of a termination that has occurred that you want to talk about?
Well, I do have a few thoughts. The short answer is no. I don't have a particular one because I haven't had time to think about this. But a few thoughts that go through my mind as you're talking. So I can sum up this podcast and make it a 2-minute podcast and give you my one tip. And my tip is, I give it to you. Find you a Bethany to fire, because I'm not a part of that anymore. So that's been fantastic, is that you take it. But I think the other thing that where we have evolved in our firing process is, I've alluded to in previous podcasts about the 90-day probationary period. Mm-hmm. And we are very, I'll joke about it in, when I'm interviewing and things like that. But I think you then, good cop, bad cop, I good cop it. And I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say things like, oh, 90 days, almost nobody makes it to 90 days. So we're very intentional about what that 90 days is. And so just so we both know that there's, no real expectation beyond 90 days. So we are very, I pepper that in. A lot. So that I'm planting the seed that, no, you are being watched. Yeah. And there's a good chance you may not be here on day 91 because we are watching it very carefully. And then you come in as bad cop, and you're not obviously mean about it, but you're very direct and all of that. And so I think the key to termination, which I may be jumping ahead in this dialogue here, but I think what I'm talking about is maybe the tail end of how do we prevent ourselves from being in this boat, to where I think the way you're describing, it seems like a lot of your clients are they're at the front end of their experience with this termination thing.
Right.
And for me, because we've done so many, bless us, that now I'm like, okay, well, this isn't that big a deal in our practice anymore, right? Because I know what I'm looking for at this point of who I think will and will not be successful. And it's a 2-part evaluation in my mind. It's competency, for sure, but then also, how are you getting along in the team? And are you driving me crazy? Because there are some that just take a lot of energy out of you. And then conversely, we've had a few lately here that it's like they stepped in and they just fit in. They just were able to get it. Funny enough, we've had 2 temps that started at the same time, different positions, but still. And one of them is like, oh no, your office is very overwhelming and you should have had a training day for me and you should have done all of this. And this is a person who's had, 20 years in the field. And you have the other one who's got maybe 5 years in the field, has had 0 training, no training day.
Yeah.
And she has just flowed in seamlessly. So to me, that says It's about the right fit. So I'll use that verbiage a lot in the first 90 days. But I think with the termination part, it's just like really setting clear to both sides that this is a very real possibility. There's nothing wrong with you, but are you the right fit? And there's nothing wrong with me. So don't try to blame me either. It's just, is this going to be the right partnership?
Well, and I would say, even backing up, you are really careful to explain that to your candidates, even in the interview process, that it's not just this quick, hey, send me your resume, I'm going to meet you this one time, boom, you're hired. It's more of this, hey, you have some texts back and forth with them to see how responsive and how clearly they communicate. And then you're bringing them into the office to meet you and the team. And then, I'm getting a chance to kind of interview them as well. And then in all of those conversations, we're saying the same thing, that, hey, we're looking for the right fit, but we also know that you, as the employee, are looking for the right fit. So we like for you to have multiple exposures to the office so that you can be confident this is the right office for you. And then we kind of go right into, and this is why we have a really, careful 90 days, because we know you're testing us out and we're testing you out. And if you make it past the 90th day, then you're probably going to be here a really, really long time. But you may not make it past that. So I think even starting with the interview process, we're not kind of going, hey, we're married to you for life. Day one of hiring, like, we're married to you. We're in this for the long haul. We actually treat it as a very temporary relationship. And then we're having a lot of conversations in that 90 days about whether or not they're meeting the criteria.
And so for anybody listening going, that is a lot of work, I just need an employee, I have no assistant here, I don't have time for that, or not even just time, but I don't have the luxury of that. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Because this is not like, this could be, for example, last week, we had one that sent her or replied to my post. Mm-hmm. I texted her that same day. She texted back the same day. I want to say she came into the office the next day.
Yeah.
And then she came in for a work interview. That was a Friday. So I talked with her Thursday. She came in for a work interview Friday. And then she came to meet us Friday. By Monday, she was available, set up a work interview. We loved her. By Tuesday, we hired her. Mm-hmm. So it's very quick, but we could see very clearly that she was a good potential fit for our office. And for those of you that are saying, but still, I've had 0 applicants. Here's the one that did. Then prepare yourself for that is a very temporary situation. Highly unlikely that is going to pan out. Now, do arranged marriages work? Yeah. But the odds are, if you can look for the right fit, you're going to have a longer, happier marriage. So when we say longer or more detailed, we're not talking about months. Mm-mm. This was literally, I talked with her Thursday evening via text, and by Tuesday night we had hired her.
She was hired, exactly.
And so a lot of that's on the candidate too. Like, when can they come in to meet you, and are they even going to show up? Good grief. So all of those things. My point being that it seems like it's overwhelming and you're going, I just need somebody. Pause. You don't. It is very possible, but work on getting the right person to avoid the firing conversation later. Was kind of my point. And I'm jumping ahead. I know we were going to talk because there are people that are in the boat now of having the fire. Yeah. So we do need to go in and talk about that in more detail.
But if you can prevent it before it actually, you have to do it. Anytime you can prevent terminating, it is a much better course. And so I think by hiring correctly, you prevent that, hopefully, from happening. Not always, but you likely prevent that from happening.
And so since we're on it and ahead, I'll just wrap this up, my thoughts on this, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty of the actual firing when you find yourself in that situation. But I think the other part of that is in the 90 days then that we are, kind of watching the person and seeing how much grace do we need to give, how much time do we need, all of those things. But I'll have some that, by the 60 days that I can tell, like, this person's not going to make it here.
Right.
For whatever reason. And Short of, again, if they're late and all of those things, I mean, they're gone pretty much the first week.
Yeah.
Because we're very clear about that this is the expectation. I messaged one the other day that I was like, because every time I offered him a time to come meet us, it was always later in the day. And I said, just so you know, 7:05 is our huddle time, which means you get here a little bit before that so that you're in the huddle at 7:05. That's not, that will be a deal breaker. That's a strict one. So I need you to really think about that before you continue your application process, because that's one that we are not going to be lenient about. So I'm setting that expectation very clear. You decide. And I get that, oh, well, it's a good candidate and maybe I can work with that. It's going to be a culture disaster for your office if you bring this person in, because at some point that person, if they're not okay with that start time. So again, I can see where somebody's going, but I just need somebody. I'm telling you, you don't.
Right.
You will figure it out. Wait for the right person. They are out there. And then, so if it's somebody that I'm like, oh, I don't know about this person, whether it's a competency thing or a personality issue, at 60 days, I might, pull the person in and go, I'm kind of concerned here because because at this point, typically, we've all kind of forgotten that we've got this timeline of 90 days. You just get into the busyness of everything, and who's keeping track of that? But in my mind, I kind of start, as the person's irritating me for whatever reason, I'm starting to go, wait a minute, where are we in this 90 days? And maybe at the 60, that's what I'm going, we've got 4 weeks. And here's the issues that I'm seeing. So I don't know that this is going to pan out post 90 days. What are your thoughts? I want to set you up for success.
Right.
And then that way they're weeding themselves out at any point in the process. And then I can dodge the firing that way. We had one the other day that she's only been with us for a couple of weeks as a temp, but we were hoping that would parlay into a longer relationship. And she sends me an email and she says, your office is very overwhelming. I'm a very laid back person and you should have trained me and all of these things. And in my mind, again, I was thinking, no, you are a seasoned professional making the ridiculous amount that y'all are asking for right now. So you want me to take a training day, pay you for that, pay my team who's making a ridiculous amount to train you. You should be a seasoned professional. No, ma'am. But I didn't say any of that. I said, I can see how you find our office overwhelming. I'm so glad you gave us a try. Thank you for that.
Yes. And again, that was your way of essentially putting a stamp of approval on, yes, you are seeing your way out.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So this is not a termination, which a week before maybe 10 days before, I was on you, Bethany, going, I can't stand her. I can't stand her. This is not the right fit. And and at that point I realized she's not a bad person. It's just her style and our office style were never going to mesh. Yeah. And so I'm like, we're making it miserable for her.
Right.
And she has no idea the misery she's giving us. Like, she thinks she's being a help, and we're like, we all can't stand you. And here, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take it from her viewpoint. She's probably really stressed when she goes home every day. And who needs that in life?
Right.
And so I think she had said that at one point in the interview process. She had said something like, life is so short, blah, 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 blah. And so I threw that back at her in the email. I said, you are right. Life is too short. So if you need to be like, today was your last day, I totally understand. And so what a great parting.
Yeah.
Very respectful, amicable, it's fine. But I think all of that front loading of expectations and all of that. So have we truly had to fire a person lately? Have we? I guess we did. The one in the spring. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So first of all, let me say something before we move on from the 90 days. Just for those listening, they're like, oh, as long as I fire somebody by that 90th day, then I won't have unemployment issues to worry about. That is a big fat myth. A candidate can file unemployment after 1 day of work with you. So I think that sometimes practice owners put themselves under this, oh gosh, I've got to decide on this person by the 90th day because gosh, on the 91st day, I lose all of this freedom of no unemployment claims. Wrong. They can file unemployment. So I like the 90-day period because it's a clear expectation. Like if you make it to 90 days, we're probably on the path of you staying. Let's have lots of conversations in the 90-day period. But does it protect you from anything from an unemployment standpoint? Absolutely not. And most employees, unfortunately, are wise enough to realize that. They know they can file unemployment. And even if you've got a really good offer letter that says the first 90 days is trial and let's consider it a temporary basis, it doesn't protect you from unemployment. So please don't try to advocate for that when somebody files unemployment on you. It is a mythical thing out there that you're not going to get.
At least in Texas. Is it different anywhere else? Or?
It may be, but I would imagine. So most unemployment offices fall heavily on the side of the employee or the unemployed. They are not for the business owners. And so my guess is that's probably pretty consistent across all states.
So something mentors of mine had advised me on a long time ago, and I think you've supported this too, is it's still not worth it to have the wrong person in your office. So to me, though, if they've only been there for 90 days, when they are getting their unemployment claim, isn't it like it's not going to impact my tax rate that much as opposed to somebody that was in my office for a year or 5 years or 7 years? So it does behoove you to get that person out of there sooner than later. Mm-hmm. Even besides the tax implications or the unemployment implications, I think what I look at as well, probably more so because the whole tax implication just confuses me. Yeah. And it's so out of my control. So I find that very nauseating to think about all of that. But the other thing that I do think about that's equally nauseating, honestly, but it's what is this employee going to say about me to their friends or on their Facebook? Or are they going to leave a bad review? Or are they going to make a state board complaint and fabricate something there? So the firing can be a lot more scary than just the unemployment. To me, the unemployment's the easy part. Like, fine, I'll pay a fine and move on. Like, it's fine. It's what kind of psychopath have I created in that they're now facing rejection, that boom, we did not accept you in our office. People are more fragile now than they ever have before. It's kind of the same concept of me, like, I don't want to dismiss a patient from my practice. In Texas, that becomes very tricky because if you don't dismiss them and then you refuse to see them, you're abandoning the patient. And Texas is huge on not abandoning the patient. You will get slammed for that. So I'm like, you're in a no-win situation. Mm-hmm. If I send you a dismissal letter, you're probably going to leave a bad review, tell all your friends about me, same thing. And you could potentially file a claim against me or a complaint against me with the state board. So I think my bigger worry is always, how do I make you feel when you leave? And if I can make it as much that it's on your terms than my terms, like same for this one that was like, your office, you should have trained me and you should have, it's expecting too much. Really, it's pediatric hygiene.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not that complicated. But fine. And so I said, yes, you are correct. Our office can be a lot for some. And at this point in the summer, we are all struggling. Yeah. So I see how you feel. Well, thank you again for giving us a try and whatever. So it's like,
we want a really friendly parting if at all possible. And I know that's not always possible, but we are. And a lot of times practice owners are like, I don't want to be friendly in this process. Like, they have irritated me to no end for the last 61 days, and I'm so mad at them. And we can we want to get all of our frustration out on that. But the risk of that is great. We want it to be as friendly of a parting, which is why, especially if we're talking about a new employee, we want lots of points of contact in those 90 days because we want it. How frustrating is it if an employee comes on, they're just moseying on along through their 90 days, they get to the 89th day, and you talk with them for the first time in their 89 days with you, and you're like, I'm sorry, it's not working out. Today will be your last day. And they're blindsided, like, I never saw this coming, and now I'm angry. Okay, the risk of that is, are they calling the state board and fabricating some complaint? Are they going on Google and Facebook and
or calling OSHA saying, oh, this office doesn't have the side shields for their assistants' glasses? Like, like something.
Yes.
Are they going to spark an OSHA inspection in your office? So it's dangerous to me. So the unemployment claim, that's the easy part. Yeah, it's this other people and people. Like, what are they going to do? Yes. I don't know if anybody watches the, I'm very proud to say I watched the Making the Team Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. It is not back this season. I'm very upset about that. But they'll do that like in training camp, and it's such a big deal, like the number of women that actually get into training camp, and then the show follows like as the two coaches are pulling them in and having talks with them about, you need to work on your memorization or your dance technique or whatever. But there will always be somebody towards the end of training camp that they've never pulled in. And that's what I think about with this, where it's like, there are 2 days left of training camp. These women have killed themselves this summer in the Dallas heat and built up the expectation. You've never said a word to them, never called them out during the trainings. And there's some that you're always calling out. And so I think the ones that are always getting called out kind of feel like, why am I getting picked on? But to me, I'm like, but you're getting coached.
Right.
Versus the one that flew under the radar. Now, because the worst ones are gone, now the spotlight's on you. So you weren't the worst of the worst, but now you are, because the worst are gone, right? And so I'm always like, that's not really fair, because you've never been called in and you're getting cut from the team on the last day before. And so I think our offices are very similar. If you've not coached and tried to have contact points, it can seem very blindsided. And then that's where you set up a raging bull.
Oh, yeah. That's when the feelings come into play. And we don't want that. In most cases, we want the employee to see that this termination has been coming. Like, they're starting to feel it as well. Wow, I keep getting coached on the same thing. I keep not meeting expectations. At some point, and this may even sound awful, and this is a little bit of the shrewd side of me, if we realize somebody is not panning out, the more conversations that we can have with them, the better. Because there is a chance that they go, I hate life and I don't want to come to this office anymore because I keep getting coached on things and I'm not meeting expectations. I'm going to bow out of this. And that is the best case scenario, I would say, for new employees or even for long-term employees. When you start really holding their feet to the fire and holding them accountable and having lots of coaching or correction meetings, even getting to the point, depending upon how egregious the errors are, that we're actually doing written warnings and all of that. There are many people who may go, hey, the writing's on the wall and I'm out. I don't want this.
And it's also like, no, I'm calling the shot. I'm out. You're not firing me.
Right.
I'm too good for here. You and your problem with you keep bugging me about that. That is your problem. You are a crazy lady. I'm out of here. Okay, yes, I'm insane.
Yeah.
Bye. You should not be around my insanity. I totally agree. I would hightail it out of here too if I was you. You know what I mean? So, but it's not, it may not be good. They may still hate you, but at least it was done on their terms. Mm-hmm. And hopefully then that's less retaliation that they're going to have. I still am waiting for the other shoe to drop from the one that we let go in the spring, because I don't know. I think she did get mixed signals in our office because I loved her, but she was also playing me. Like, she knew what to say to me versus what she said to everybody else. And she was a very smart manipulator. But I think I remember I was at a seminar and you messaged me and you said she needs to go today. You've never said that.
Never.
And I was like, oh dear. Okay, well then let her go. And I was waiting for a text, an email, something, a rotten egg thrown at our cars or at our building, like something. It's been crickets.
Yep.
So I don't know what happened with her.
Yeah. Well, and she was interesting. So I feel like she's a good example for us to talk about because she breaks the mold of what we usually do. So we normally follow this pattern that we've been talking about. Lots of frequent coaching, lots of documented counseling, and then it ends in a termination. She was a little bit off the rails because and I don't ever just come in and go, she's done. Like, normally you're the one that's like, okay, I'm done. Will you go get it taken care of? This one was opposite. And it's because we brought her in to assume this very particular role. I had it very specific in my mind because we were fully staffed at the front. I did not want her in the front. I wanted her to be in the clinical setting. I had communicated that to her very clearly, multiple occasions, not only in the interview process, because that was when you brought her to me, I was thinking, oh my gosh, from a budget standpoint, like, we cannot bring her on. It doesn't make any sense. The only reason it made sense to me was if we were alleviated our hygienist who was being pulled into these treatment conversations. And so I said, if she comes in and that's the role she has, and then she's helping in the clinical setting, I feel like I can financially justify it. And so I was really, really clear with this lady from the beginning. This is where you need to be. This is the role, over and over and over again. Well, she kept kind of working her way into the front. And so she would be coming and having conversations with you about wanting to do more at the front and be more at the front. And I kept coming back to her because we had lots of conversations with her, but I kept reminding her, remember, your role is to alleviate that hygienist, do whatever you can to get that hygienist back on the floor. Well, then I was out of town on family vacation, and you guys had a conversation, and you had decided to let her kind of go more to the front, be more present at the front, have more leadership at the front. And so when I came back, I was kind of following up on that with one of our senior front office people. And I started to realize we knew there was some culture things going on, that there was some negativity, that she was
a pot stirrer.
She was a pot stirrer. And I think we knew that, but didn't know the depths of it because it seemed to only be targeted towards one person. And the one person it was targeted towards tends to kind of create some friction every now and again. So we weren't super surprised. But when I finally was able to sit down with some of our key people that have been on the team for a really long time, and they were clearly designating this person that we ended up firing as causing a lot of problems. And they gave me very specific examples. And my eyes were kind of opened in that moment where I realized, oh my gosh, like this woman is having a massive impact on culture. It's not just with this one person. It's pretty pervasive. And also, the daggum chick worked her way into the one place I told her I didn't want her to be, which is front desk. And she kind of weaseled her way in there. And so that's the day that I texted you and said, she's got to go. So she breaks the mold in that even though we were having lots of conversations with her, I was constantly reminding her of the role that I had in mind for her, which was to, alleviate the hygienist. We were having those kind of conversations, but they weren't like, hey, you're a problem. Hey, you're not achieving in this area. Hey, they weren't corrective meetings, so to speak. They were just, let me touch base with you a lot in these 90 days and let me remind you where we're wanting you to get to. So it was very surprising to her and I was in the office that day when all this was coming up and you were not, and I needed to hear back from you before I just went and terminated one of your employees. So she was in the office and had intended to have some time with me that day, but after my meetings, I was out of time and I needed to talk with you because I'm like, I don't need to sit and have a conversation with this lady about her role in all of this and then later fire her. So finally I got word back from you, and the next day I called this lady over the phone and just terminated her over the phone, and she was very surprised. But I do want to talk about how I had that conversation, because this is one of those, like she didn't see this coming at all, and now we've blindsided her with firing her. So the way that I positioned that conversation to try to make it as friendly as possible, I didn't go, you've been stirring the pot, and I found out that you said this, and no. This needed to be, because it was a very big surprise, it needed to be the most neutral and positive conversation that I could possibly make it. So when I got her on the phone, I was like, hey, Julia, hey, sorry. Shoot. Well,
it's okay. You haven't violated HIPAA. We don't know what her last name is.
No,
we don't know anything. Go ahead.
So anyway, hey, you. And I said, I want to talk to you about some of the things going on in the practice. I know that you and Dr. Kuba really talked about moving more towards the front. I know that I've been really clear with you about we don't need somebody at the front. And I regurgitated all these conversations that I've had with her. And I said, I've realized over the last couple days that we are not maximizing your skill set. You are a front office beast. That is your background. That is what you love. That is your passion. And I think you've been trying to make that clear to us over these last, few months. And I haven't been hearing you. And I'm sorry for that. I realize now that is your passion. And I know you and Dr. Kuba had that conversation about you moving up there. But in all honesty, we don't have the financial space for you to be there. Like, your value is in the clinical setting. And I realize now, I'm sorry, like I'm realizing for the first time that that's not where you want to be. And so Dr. Kuba and I have talked about it, and we've decided we're holding you back. Like this is not the best situation for you. You've got so much to give, and it's not in our practice. It is in another practice that can really utilize your passion, which is that front office area. So just want to let you know that we're moving in a different direction, and we've got nothing but positive to say about you. We wish you the best. We want you to go forth and really just make an impact in somebody's office. And so it was very quick. It was about a 6-minute conversation, and she said nothing. So that's another key thing with firing somebody is you want to control the whole conversation. You want to be talking the whole time. The second you leave a space, somebody's going to start asking questions, and then their emotions are going to start getting into it, and it will get heated. So short, sweet, quick firings is the best way to go, and you control it the whole time. So I didn't even, when I picked up the phone with her, I was just like, I jumped right in. I didn't ask pleasantries like, oh, how is your day going, or anything like that. When we do that, it gets really hard to fire somebody, because they're like, oh, I'm going to my girls' soccer tournament, and then we got this, and then we got that. And the more they talk, the more you start going, oh my gosh, I'm about to fire this person. And you start waffling, or you start at least feeling your heartstrings start getting pulled. Don't even just have pleasantries. Just jump into the conversation, get it done, and try to really build up the person. And I think back on every termination that I've helped you with in your office, and I've positioned them all the same way. Like, we're holding you back. Like, you have so much more to give, and we don't have the right position for you in this practice. And it goes as well as it can be. I mean, I could tell this lady was shocked over the phone. She was like, wait, really? And I was like, yep, Dr. Kuba and I have been talking about it. And we just feel like this is what's best for you. You need this. Like, we want you to go tackle it. And then that was it. I mean, I ended the conversation. I wish you the best.
How did you end the conversation? She said, really? And then you said, yes, this is what's best. Good luck, bye.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And I said, I know this comes as a shock. I said, there have been conversations behind the scenes that I really haven't made you aware of. And, that's on me. So I know this is a shock to you, but this is what I think is best for you. And I just know you're going to go out there and kill it. But, again, I'm sorry. I know this is kind of news to you, but I did want to call and let you know.
I will say with that too, we do, especially when it is kind of more suddenish like that. I think, what do we do? A 2-week?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I would have done even a 4-week, a month of pay, which really chaps my hide. But on the other hand, if that's going to be another thing that's going to smooth things over, because she still has bills to pay, she can't get another job tomorrow. Now, in this market, she probably could. But in general, it's like, okay, I've given you 2 weeks of buffer time to go and find something.
And by the way, I do love severance pay, because it does soften the termination meeting that is had. So we have a better chance of somebody not, we've talked about the raging bull that's going to go and cause problems. Oftentimes when there is a severance pay included, it helps to soften it. And in the tone that I was just talking about, like, I'm sorry, I know this comes as a surprise to you. However, we know this is sudden. I do want to let you know that Dr. Kuba values you, and she wants to make sure that you don't have to worry about anything financially. She's going to pay you 2 additional weeks just so you have time to kind of decompress, get out there, find you a job, so you don't have to worry about that. So it kind of goes along with the theme of, we care about you. Go forth and conquer. We know this is best for you. Also, fun side note on severance pay, they can't file unemployment for the 2 weeks that they were paid, because they were still being paid at that point. Now, does that end up saving you in the long run? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, if they find a job quickly and they're working within 2 weeks, then it saves you. They can't file unemployment on you because you paid them and then they had a job in place. But maybe it doesn't. You don't do it to protect yourself from the unemployment. You do it so that this ending meeting is as pleasant as it possibly can be.
So a couple of things. That's what you just said. Absolutely. So again, I'm not worried about the unemployment. Like, that's a, that's going to happen at some point. And so to say that it's not, it's, it's annoying as anything, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's all this other. So now if she's like, if I didn't give a severance, and now she's like, are you kidding me? It is Friday at 8:00 and I don't have a job on Monday and I have this bill due and this bill due and I got to go find something. Like, can you imagine the rage and the stress that would cause any one of us? And so if we can kind of help diminish that a little bit, it's like your insurance. Yes, I don't want to pay you for 2 weeks for doing nothing. You've already been a train wreck in my office. I got to pay you on top of it. Yes, you do. It's your insurance policy that you're hedging your bets that it's going to make this person less stressed and therefore less likely to cost you a lot more than that OSHA inspection, than that board complaint and all of that, because that's where it gets really expensive. And so yes, I absolutely recommend that. I think the other thing that you said about her, correct. I think for me, that's where I was going. Well, the job that she needs to be doing, the treatment planning coordination, she was actually doing pretty well with that part. Mm-hmm. It's just she was stirring up so much drama with everything else. And to me, again, it's all like the office is not separate compartments. It all flows together. So if you're doing treatment talks, and there is some front desk component to that where you've got to get the estimates done right, you've got to just submit the paperwork right, you've got to do all of that. And if I've got a front desk that's not quite accurate with that, and you're catching that because you have the expertise to, then yes, I'm going to have you up in the front helping more with that. But at the same time, if we're falling behind in the back because we had one person out on maternity, we had another one who had to quit because her husband's job shift changed, blah, 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 then we need you in the back because there's going to be nobody to treatment plan for if we don't see a dang patient.
Right.
So I would have thought her years of expertise would have clued her into that. So I kept kind of trying to get her to see the big picture. It was like, you're obviously capable of seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
And this is not a compartment thing. We've all got to flow. So I think that was kind of my justification of saying, yes, you can help with the front here. You help with the back here. Then you're going to do this. And you're kind of the flower and the coordinator between all. Unfortunately, she knew what she was doing. She was trying to worm her way into one area. And
what's interesting enough about her is she wasn't asking, because I was very clear about where I wanted her to be. She wasn't asking me, am I front or back? But she was spending so much time with that front office team that as I looked back, I realized that I had been asked multiple times by the front office ladies, is she front or back? And I didn't put it all together because it happened sporadically, but I realized that was her. That was her kind of weaving that conversation. Well, I just don't know. Am I front or back? And when I finally had the detailed conversation with our senior person, she made it very clear that that was a chronic conversation that was being had from this lady that got terminated, that she was constantly so confused on where she was supposed to be, coming from our longtime person at the front. And I thought in that moment, I was like, that's really interesting. That she's portraying it a certain way to those front office ladies that she's so confused. She just doesn't know where she belongs, front or back, when she darn well knows that we've been super clear, incredibly clear with her role.
And I guess I missed it because to me, I'm like, what does it matter? Like, it all flows together. What do you mean, are you front or back? Yes. Yeah. My answer is yes.
Yeah.
You're helping here, you're helping here, you're helping here. You're helping wherever you're needed.
Exactly.
Well, so if you're needed in the front, then you're going to go run up to the front. But then 10 minutes later, if you're needed in the back, you're jumping to the back. So I was very clear about that. So to me, I was like, I don't really understand the question. Like, what do you mean, are you front or back?
Yeah.
Yes, you're both.
Yeah.
So that was throwing me off. Because I didn't get the manipulation side of it. Yeah. I assumed that everybody was really confused. And I was getting irritated with everybody on the team going, what are y'all talking about? What is it? What does it freaking matter? Like, you're needed where you're needed.
But then it came to light that it was really her kind of spinning that, web. And I will also say, too, when I thought about how I was going to conduct the termination conversation, you always want to come back to what you feel like was most important to that candidate. So her big deal, for whatever reason, and what she constantly talked about with the front office ladies is, am I front or back? I really want to be up here with you guys. I really want to be y'all support. Y'all need my help. Blah, blah,
I used
blah.
to be an RDA. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the angle that I went with, because I knew if I talked about something that I knew was important to her, there was a better chance of her actually receiving that and long shot going, yeah, I agree with you on that. So that's why I took that angle. I could have absolutely taken the angle of, I just feel like the culture's off and you're not, and that would have been offensive to her. So you can unpack everything you want in this. I would highly advise against that. I would pick the one thing that was important to that person that they feel like they were not satisfied on. And that is the reason for termination, because then it's really hard for them to argue with that. If you come at them with, which in most terminations, you got a long list of all the things that they've done wrong or have disappointed you on. If you come at them with that list, it's going to lead to a heated conversation. Pick the one thing that is important to that particular person. And that is the reason that you're firing. And they may say, but is that all? And you're like, this one's important enough to you that it's important enough to me. And I know we're never going to see eye to eye on this. You deserve to find an office that sees eye to eye with you on this. So you keep coming back to that. And the more you stay on point in that conversation, don't throw in extra stuff. Don't get pulled in to, but what else? What else could there be? Because then you're going to end up with a 45-minute termination session that is heated. She ends up leaving angry, and it's a really big debacle. Stay on point. Pick your point and do not deviate from that point. And again, don't allow a lot of questions. Try to control the whole thing.
And this is exactly why I turn it over to you, because I am the one who botches all of that up, because I'm a feeler and I'm angry. I'm angry that I'm having to terminate you. I'm angry about all of these things. And now I've got to play the part of, oh, it's me, not you. No, ma'am, it is you. It is 1,000% you. And so I have a very hard time controlling that. Mm-hmm. I can be passive aggressive with that. So I just am like, okay, this is not in anybody's best interest to get me started on this, because you're right. I would have a pause. There would be a little opening window, and I would completely slide down an avalanche, snowball, and sabotage myself with that. Yeah. Now, the other thing you said about really focusing on what they... it almost sounds like it's manipulative, but it's not. I mean, like, really, when you think about it at the end of the day, if you really want to be front desk, and I will never have you as front desk, then this is not a winning thing.
Exactly.
So it's really not like, even though I can't stand you because of XYZ, at the end of the day, we all deserve to be where we will thrive. Mm-hmm. And she will thrive in somebody's office. She will. It's just not this one. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person, you're a horrible worker. I mean, I might secretly think that, but at the end of the day, it's really not. Or vice versa, if they're looking at us going, you're such a mean doctor, you run too tight a ship, you're whatever they're saying. No, I'm not. This is just my style. And if it doesn't suit you, life is too short to be stuck in an environment where it doesn't suit you, whether it's me or you. So we don't need to get into that. At the end of the day, it's just an area where we're not going to see eye to eye, like you said.
Right.
Same with this one that just terminated. It was very tempting for me to reply back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a busy office. Yeah, you're right. We are intense. And we get more intense when we've got somebody like you who can't keep up. Yes, you are correct. We're all feeling the heat because you are slacking and you are not worth the money right now, because you're supposed to be an expert and it's all you can do to get through a pediatric hygiene appointment. So yes, I do agree. It has been stressful. That's what I want to reply. But then I'm like, okay. You know what?
It's such a short-term gain. It makes us feel better in the moment, but the long-term potential negative impacts of that, it's just not worth that instant gratification.
Well, for me, and I wouldn't even view it as gratification, because it's not gratifying, because I know you will never see it, but I'm angry, and this is my side of it. You are attacking me, basically. Mm-hmm. You're basically rejecting me. You're saying that my office isn't good enough, and I'm doing something bad, because that's why you feel bad.
Yeah.
No. I'm sure I'm doing things to bug you too, but this is a two-way street, lady. But I've learned that I cannot say that because I'm not going to get anywhere. And I would think we all probably know that true with any relationship. Like, take it outside the office. If it's with your spouse or your significant other or whatever it is, like, to just dig your heels in, well, no, my way is right. Well, no, my is, I mean, like, that's not going to help in any relationship. So I think I've come a long way with, because that is not how I used to approach things at all in work life or private life. And now I'm just like, just let it go. It's not beneficial to any of us to harp on, because I'm going to keep attacking you. You are not going to change my mind that you are a worthwhile employee, and you're right, it was me. So why am I going to keep talking about it? Right. You're never going to see it. I'm never going to see your viewpoint.
Well, especially not in a termination meeting. Their emotions are so high. Like, y'all aren't going to come to a mutual decision in that meeting. They're being fired. So to kind of convince them on why they're being fired, that's just not going to happen. It's unrealistic. They're not going to see the light in that moment and agree with you, like, oh yeah, based on all the evidence, I should be fired.
And as dumb as it sounds, I think that's what I was always thinking. Like, you think you are high and mighty. Let me show you how you are not.
Yeah.
Because clearly you're in your own bubble and you've not taken a peek outside for how you are perceived and what you are really doing. Let me educate you on what it is. Yeah. And I would. And then you're right. It absolutely led to disaster. Yeah. They are not going to see the light. And I still kind of go, I really want to say this to see if they will figure it out. They won't.
Yeah. They're not going to. They're not going to. And I think if there's one takeaway from how to fire, it's in the conducting of that meeting. Stay in control and use the point that you know is important to them. And is, as weird as it sounds, kind of encourage them. Like, we believe, like, go get them. Like, go out there. You are going to just kill it out there somewhere. Because to be able to end on that note means that we are potentially preventing a major backlash from, if that employee is walking out those doors feeling like, yes, I'm not coming back to this place, but somehow I feel like encouraged and supported. Okay, then we've done our job and we have prevented them from going out potentially spreading negative word or causing drama for us. That's our best chance of preventing it. That's our only chance to prevent it, is in that meeting and how we conduct it. So throw out the ego, throw out all the stuff that you want to say in that meeting, and think about what matters to this employee and how can I conduct this literally 5 to 6 minute termination meeting in a way that encourages them to go out the door peacefully.
And I would say, like, as much as it's difficult to, like, really dig down and make sure it's sincere. Yeah. Like, you don't want to say, oh, you're going to be great in somebody else's office. If you've already told them how terrible they are, then that obviously is not going to work. So this is where, again, it's not you, it's me. We may not feel that way. So that part may not be sincere, but truly find a sincere point of going, okay, if I was the one looking in on this, advising this, and this wasn't my office, and I'm seeing that this person is clearly front desk, and I clearly don't want them for front desk, like, that objectively, somebody looking into it could go, well, then why are they working here? Mm-hmm. Right. Why are you working here? Well, then you shouldn't be working here. Go find a spot that has a good front desk option for you. So try to, like you were saying, try to find that, and then that needs to be sincere, because why can't you meet that? So if it is something where you're like, you do need a front desk, mm-hmm. and they want to be front desk, then that's not the one you're going to pick, because clearly they're going, you do need front desk.
Right.
So what is it about why they're not perfect for that front desk? Well, I really need somebody that can speak Spanish, as you've seen here. So, I mean, obviously you're never going to learn Spanish, and I keep getting on you for not, I don't know, I'm making this up, but something. Like, you've got to find something that's legitimately why they're not a good fit besides the drama stuff.
Exactly.
And something they can take away and go, you're right. Why am I trying to change myself to fit into this square peg? Let me go find my round peg. So mm-hmm. that's kind of what you're doing. Is trying to find that one sincere point to say, you know what, I know you're late all the time, and I know that's very stressful for you, mm-hmm. but you know we can't be lenient with that, and I don't want to keep harping on you for that. There are other offices that start later. You could thrive in that office, and you know, I want you to be able to find that, because I know you get stressed on your way over here. I don't want you in a car accident because of me, right, and trying to get here on time. Life is too short for that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to free you. You mm-hmm. go find an office that will better suit your schedule, because that's when you're going to be happier.
Exactly. it's releasing them onto what you know they're going to be better successful in.
Yeah. So that was my point in that. In make sure it's sincere and make sure it's valid. Because you can't say, well, we're not looking for front desk if you clearly are.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you got to dig in deeper and try to find something that what truly is the issue that they're having that you cannot budge on.
Yeah.
And
zone in on that.
Yeah. I don't know if we're out of time here or not, but I know you said you've had this with other clients. Did I miss one, or did we miss a point that we could have brought up here that
I
would
feel
have been
like
helpful?
just kind of in summary, big key takeaways, lots of documentation, lots of meetings that occur prior to the termination when possible, and that's not always possible. And then I would say in the termination meeting, control it, find a point that you know that the person's probably going to agree on. Keep it as positive as you can and keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Don't allow a lot of response time. Just kind of get them out the door. So, and I feel like there's a lot of other examples, but we're out of time today, and we'll have to pick up on those examples in another one. So stay tuned for more on how to fire an employee. Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone. But we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.